And now, using internet, you are going to match these phobias with the correct meaning. Autophobia, obloptophobia, aviophobia, and phrygophobia. So you are going to complete is when you autophobia is fear of washing. I don't know. So according to you, well, you're going to look on the internet this information and you are going to match. Well, some people have strange phobias. You are going to listen to Jody, Dave, and Melissa. They are talking about their phobias. So, you are going to answer these questions. Which part of the cartoon would make them panic? How did their phobia start? And how does it affect their lives? What caused their panic attack? And have they tried to cure their phobia? So you're going to listen and answer these 5 questions.
Track 30.
Oh, before you start listening to this, we are going to make a chart because you're going to answer the questions for Jody, Dave, and Melissa. So you answer this question for Jody, Dave, and Melissa. In another piece of paper, because you don't have too much space here. If the answer is not on the listening, so you make a line, okay? Now, let's start.
7. Fears and phobias. Jody.
I have a really unusual phobia. It began when I was a little girl. I was staying with my grandmother, and she asked me to go upstairs and get her cardigan sweater. I opened the cabinet and saw this big, dark green sweater with huge black buttons hanging there. I was terrified. I started screaming. My grandmother rushed upstairs and finally managed to calm me down, but from then on, it was a problem. It was the buttons. All buttons made me feel uncomfortable. It's difficult for me to buy clothes. I try to find skirts and pants with just belts and zippers, but it's not easy. About a year ago, a button came off a colleague's jacket at work, and I had a panic attack. I've decided to see a therapist, but I'm embarrassed to say